Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The title for this one goes like this. My daughter ran away from my house within a few days after my in-laws arrived at our house. Then she tells me why she did it, and I called the cops on them and got them arrested. And now my husband is refusing to talk to me. I have recently been through something extremely traumatic, which led me to take some drastic actions against my husband's parents. Normally, I would have taken some time to think through everything, but it involved my daughter, and she is always my first priority. Now my husband is refusing to even look at me, and I just want to know if I overreacted to everything. I, 38 female, I'm a proud mother of the most wonderful daughter. Her name is Olivia, and she is 15 years old. I had Olivia when I was just 23. It was a pretty serious relationship with her father, and the pregnancy came as a complete surprise. We weren't married, and when I broke the news of my pregnancy to him, he decided to back out of both, the relationship and fatherhood. He said that he was young and that he wasn't ready for such a big responsibility. I don't blame him. I admit I felt the same way. However, when I went to my first ultrasound and saw my baby for the first time, it was as if my heart doubled in size to make space for all the love that I felt for her. I made my decision. It didn't matter whether her father was in my life. I was going to have this baby and try to provide the best life possible for her. It wasn't easy. My parents initially were very disappointed in me for having a child out of wedlock. They weren't okay with my decision to keep the baby either, because they felt like I would be throwing away my life by being held down by this baby. My sister Nancy was my biggest support. She helped me out throughout the pregnancy, made sure that I had everything that I needed, and when the time came, she was the one who cut the umbilical cord. Holding Olivia in my arms for the first time was one of the most profound moments of my life. A mother never forgets special moments like this. Soon, Olivia became the light of our lives. Even though my parents were against this whole pregnancy, they immediately jumped into the role of doting grandparents. They adored her. At the time, I was working as a nurse and had to spend long hours at the hospital. My parents and sisters stepped up and helped take care of Olivia during those times. No matter how tired I was, seeing Olivia run up to me with her arms open in embrace made my day. When Olivia was around 7 years old, I decided to move out of my parents' place. Even though they loved having Olivia around, they were getting old and needed to enjoy their retirement. Even Nancy had gotten married and moved out. I had saved up enough money to get us a small apartment that was closer to Olivia's new school. It was also much closer to the hospital, which was very convenient for me. She was my whole world. Everything I did it solely for her. Without my parents' help, raising her was not easy. I had many sleepless nights at work, followed by sleepless days trying to care for her. But it was all worth it. Just seeing her smile and hug me and blossom into this extremely smart, creative, beautiful little girl made every sleepless night worth it. Olivia's father never contacted me since the day that I told him about my pregnancy. He was my last serious relationship. I was so preoccupied with work and raising Olivia that I had absolutely no time to even think about dating. For me, the most important thing was to make sure that if I ever got serious with a man, I would have to make sure that he knew that he would not only be getting a wife, but a daughter as well. Olivia and I were a package deal, and no matter how well the man treated me, if he wasn't good with her, it was a deal breaker. Because of this, I barely ventured out with any romantic prospects. I would always try to find faults with them and make up excuses, mostly because I had been let down by all the men that I had dated previously, and I wanted to be a good role model for Olivia. We were both happy in our own small world. When Olivia was 12, she asked me why I wasn't dating anyone. I was surprised that she even cared about my love life. She told me that I had to find a boyfriend so that my attention could be divided between them, because she felt that I had too much love to give to just one person. Yes, tweens are so blunt. She said that she wanted me to stop worrying about her because she was a big girl now and try focusing on myself for a change, and signed me up in a dating app and made my profile using the few good pictures that I had. I laughed it off, thinking that it was a joke, but later that night, I found myself scrolling through my potential matches. I came across a pretty interesting profile. His name was Jude. He was 35 at the time and a divorcee. His profile was funny and he was handsome, so I swiped right and we matched. Jude and I chatted almost every day for 3 months before I even considered meeting him. We spoke about everything, from work to our favorite shows and books, to how unlucky we'd been in our love life. I was very upfront about the fact that I had a daughter and that she was the one who actually made me do this. Jude didn't have any kids, but he was married to his ex-wife for 5 years, but they ultimately fell out of love and decided to divorce. He seemed to be happy that I had a kid. He said that he always wanted kids, but he never had the chance to have one. It was only after a lot of contemplation that I decided to go on a date with him. Our date was great. He was very respectful and charming. He also got all my jokes and we bonded well. After another month, he asked me out and I said yes. We had been practically dating for 5 months now, and I really liked him. I never gave myself a chance to fall in love after having Olivia, but Jude ticked all my boxes. I made the decision to finally tell Olivia about him, and she was thrilled. She wanted to know every little detail and was so excited to meet him. When Jude and Olivia first met, it was hilarious. Olivia was so curious and inquisitive about him and asked him hundreds of questions. Jude was very nervous to meet her and was a little taken aback by her frankness and fumbled to answer her questions. But at the end of it, I could see that they liked each other. They had their own banter, and most importantly, Jude was good with her. He knew his limits, but still treated her well. Over the next year, Jude and I got even closer. He would stop by our apartment all the time, even buy some groceries. He was getting on well with Olivia. Everything seemed to be working in our favor. When he popped the question after nearly 2 years of dating, I was still hesitant. This would not only be a new experience for me, but for Olivia as well. But she gave me a thumbs up and I said yes. We tied the knot 6 months ago in a small, intimate ceremony. Just our families and a few of our close friends. This was the first time I met Jude's parents. They were both in their mid-60s and seemed like sweet people. Jude told me that they were both teachers. Now they had retired and owned a few warehouses which they would rent out to people to earn some passive income. The wedding was beautiful. Olivia was my maid of honor, and she was the happiest one out of all of us that day. After the wedding, we moved in with Jude. He owned a house and our tiny apartment would have been too cramped for all of us. The first few months of married life were beautiful. I finally felt like I had found the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. For the past 15 years, I had put my life on a standstill to make sure that Olivia had the best of whatever I could provide, and now she was a teenager, independent, and didn't need me as much. I could finally take some time for myself and focus on my marriage. About 2 weeks ago, Jude asked me if his parents could come over to stay for about a month. A tree had fallen through their roof because of a storm and they needed to make some renovations. I agreed immediately. We had room to spare, and I felt that their coming over would help Olivia and I to bond with them more since we only saw them a few times since the wedding. We went over to help them pack some essentials, but I didn't really do much packing because every time I tried to open up boxes, they told me that they would do it themselves. They moved in that night into our guest bedroom and did all the unpacking themselves. They even shut the door. I thought that they just wanted privacy. That night, I tried to make them feel welcome by cooking them a nice meal. After that, all 5 of us watched a movie. I noticed that Olivia was really enjoying herself and she had gotten especially close with my mother-in-law. I was happy to see that both my in-laws had taken a liking to Olivia and vice versa. It was like the 5 of us had known each other for years. It made my heart happy. The next couple of days were even better. My mother-in-law and father-in-law helped a lot in the house. They even made breakfast for all of us as a thank you. In the evening, my mother-in-law even took Olivia out for ice cream. It seemed as if nothing could go wrong, but boy was I wrong. Around a week ago, I noticed that Olivia was acting a little strange. I tried talking to her, but she made up excuses, saying that she was stressed from school. At dinner, she didn't speak to anyone, which was odd because she was such a chatterbox. Even my in-laws were quiet. I should have pressed harder to find out what was wrong, but I was so tired and she wasn't giving me any answers. I went to bed assuming that I would speak to her in the morning. The next day, however, Olivia was nowhere to be seen. This was normal because she'd sometimes leave super early in the morning to go to tennis classes. She'd usually leave a note or text me, but I thought that she might have forgotten this time. I went about my work, and by afternoon, I started feeling worried. Olivia always replied to my texts, but she hadn't responded to any of them so far. When I went back home in the evening, there was still no trace of her. Now I was panicking. I called the school to see if she had shown up, but they weren't reachable. I called up all of her friends to see if she was with them, but none of them had a clue. They said that she didn't go to class that day. I called up her tennis coach, and she hadn't shown up for that either. My heart dropped. Olivia never behaved like this. She always told me what she was up to, and now even my calls weren't going through. Jude was equally worried. We tried calling and texting her hundreds of times, but to no avail. My in-laws were calm, but they said that Olivia was probably at a party or with a boyfriend, and she didn't want me to find out. They reassured me that she would be back by morning. But Olivia would have at least texted me. This was not normal behavior. I wanted to go to the police right away, but my in-laws and Jude calmed me down and told me that if she wasn't back by morning, we would go to the police. That night, I could barely sleep. I lay in the living room, waiting to see when she would be back. By around 4 a.m., my panic had reached its boiling point. Something told me that she wasn't okay. I grabbed my jacket and left home in the pitch of dark, trying to think of places she could be. I knew she wasn't with my parents or sister because they would have told me. I tried thinking of places that were special to Olivia, and then it struck me. When we first moved out of my parents' house, we always went to a park near their apartment. Olivia loved the place. Whenever we used to get into fights or she was upset, she would run straight to the park to calm down. I knew that if she was worried or upset, she'd be at the park, and I was right. There she was, sitting on a bench looking at the sunrise. I was so confused. Why was she here? She seemed perfectly fine, and now she tried running away. As soon as she saw me, I could see relief flood her face. She ran to me in tears, almost hyperventilating, not leaving my hand. My mind was racing. I had never seen her like this before. I tried to calm her down as much as possible, and after reassuring her that everything was fine, she finally spoke. She told me that she had gone home early the previous day, and she was surprised to see that there were a bunch of men standing at our doorway talking to my father-in-law. She was confused because they looked dangerous and seemed to be threatening him and giving him packages. She was curious, so she tried to hide and hear what they were saying. She said that she heard them talk about warehouses and drugs and how my father-in-law owed them money. After they left, she heard my in-laws talking to each other about how they were going to store the drugs. Olivia told me that she tried to get more information, but couldn't hear anything else. She then went into the house pretending as if she had just come back and everyone behaved completely normal. But she still felt that something was wrong. When my in-laws were downstairs, she sneaked into the room, which they always kept closed, and saw the boxes that the men gave them. When she opened them, she was surprised to see that it was filled with old vases, but inside the vases were small packets of white powder, drugs. Before she could put things back the way they were and leave, my mother-in-law walked into the room. She looked shocked to see her there. Olivia told me that they called my father-in-law into the room and locked the door. They told her that it was not drugs but talcum powder, which helped remove moisture and preserve the vases. Olivia said that she believed them, but they could tell that she wasn't convinced. Then they started threatening her. They said that if she ever told anyone about this, they would blame everything on her. They could very easily frame a teenager for distributing drugs. Nobody would believe that two grandparents were even associated with drugs, but anyone would believe that a teenager was. Olivia told me that she told them that she wouldn't tell anyone. My father-in-law even said that if she did, he knew people in labs who could make her fail the drug test. Then nobody would believe her, and she could even be arrested. They went even further by saying that even if she didn't care about herself, the warehouses were in Jude's name. And even though he didn't know about the drugs, if she told anyone about it, they would put the blame on Jude and me, saying that we were the ones renting out the warehouses to drug dealers. This is where she got really afraid. She told me that she wouldn't be able to handle it if I got accused of anything, so she promised to shut her mouth. That evening, remember when she was acting all distant? It's because she was terrified that she would say something. That's why she barely spoke at all, even when I tried my best to get her talking. She told me that she couldn't sleep that night. She couldn't get herself to go to tennis or school. Keeping such a huge secret was eating her up. She decided to leave home early and spent most of the day walking around trying to figure out what to do. She switched off her phone. That's why I wasn't able to reach her. She ultimately went to the park because that helped her calm down. She told me that she was planning to come to the hospital to tell me everything, but then I already found her. After saying all this, she just collapsed in my arms, still sobbing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nothing made sense. From what Olivia said, it seemed as if my in-laws were renting out their warehouses to drug dealers, and from the looks of it, these people knew where we lived and had even been at our house. Moreover, Olivia had actually found drugs in our house. This alarmed me more than anything. I just sat there for a minute, trying to come to terms with everything. My in-laws were involved with drug dealers, and they threatened my daughter, forcing her to run away. I could not stand this. I told Olivia that we were going to the police. She put up a huge fight, saying that if we went to the police, my in-laws would blame everything on us. But after reassuring her that everything was going to be fine and that I was not going to leave her side, she agreed. Right now, my main priority was to ensure that Olivia was safe. Everything she said seemed so unlikely, but she never lied to me. I trusted her more than anything. I bought her some breakfast because she hadn't eaten all day and went straight to the police. I didn't tell anyone what we were planning to do, not even Jude. At the police station, Olivia told them everything. They asked her several questions to describe what the men looked like, how the drugs were hidden in the vase, and so forth. She answered everything as best as she could. They asked me a bunch of questions as well. Finally, I gave them the address of the warehouse. They told me that if my in-laws were guilty and found out that we had informed them, they could easily hide the evidence. They had to catch them off guard and raid the warehouse without them knowing. They sent a bunch of police officers to the warehouse to confirm any illicit activities, and within an hour, they got the news that the warehouse was used to store and make drugs. They even caught a couple of dealers. The police then went to my house and accused my in-laws of distributing drugs. My in-laws said that they had no idea that the warehouse was being used to make and store drugs. They just rented it out and had nothing to do with it. But after searching the house, the police found the packages and arrested them. They kept saying that they were being framed and had no idea about anything. I met Jude at the police station and told him the whole story. I thought he would support me. Instead, he was furious with me and told me that his parents could be innocent and I was foolish to listen to a teenager and get them arrested without any proof and without even telling him. I was shocked that he was standing up for his parents after everything that happened. I guess he was in shock, but even though I tried talking to him, he wasn't even looking at me. It's been a week now. His parents are arrested and Jude can't bail them out. They are going on trial. They still say that they have no connection to the drug dealers and are not guilty of the charges. Jude still isn't speaking to me. He is convinced that his parents are innocent. Do you think I should have told him before going to the cops? Hi everyone. Many of you seem to agree with Jude and think that I should have at least told him before telling the cops. At the time, I was a mess. I had just learned some extremely unexpected news, and my maternal instinct kicked in. My main goal was to make sure that my daughter was safe. That was my only priority. As a parent, I think it's completely normal to go to any lengths to protect your child, and I still think that I made the right decision to go to the police. They found actual evidence of criminal activity, and I'm not sorry for what I did. I still stand by my decision. It's been a couple of weeks since I last posted. My in-laws are on trial. They finally admitted to being accomplices in the drug ring. Here's what I know. They did rent out their warehouses initially. It was being used as a storage space. Later, when they found out that the people were using it to make and store drugs, they wanted to shut everything down. But the dealers offered them a big sum of money every month if they kept quiet and continued to let them use the space. Since they were retired and needed money, they agreed. However, they decided to buy a new house and took a loan from the dealers, which they never paid back. In return, the dealers now use their house to store some of the drugs, and they even deliver the packages to certain people because nobody would suspect them. They pleaded guilty to everything, and now they could face up to 5 years in jail for being affiliated with not only drug dealers, but other convicted felons too. I'm trying to keep it brief and vague for privacy's sake, but yeah, that's basically what happened yesterday. Jude is still refusing to speak to me or Olivia. I met him at court yesterday, and when his parents pleaded guilty, he was in disbelief. I still think that he was holding on to the hope that his parents were innocent. Olivia and I have been living with my sister and her family for the past week. I just couldn't bear to be around Jude because he kept looking at me as if I was guilty. I did what was best for my child, and hopefully he's able to see that what I did was right. He loves Olivia too, and I know that he's conflicted about this whole thing. I'm just going to give him space for now. My in-laws have been officially charged. They will be serving 5 years in prison and are eligible for parole. I finally spoke to Jude last night after the verdict. He broke down crying, saying that he never knew that his parents could do such a thing. My heart broke, seeing him like this. He apologized to me and told me that he didn't want to believe what I was saying because he didn't want to see his parents suffer in jail. He refused to believe it until they pleaded guilty and the verdict was passed. He told me that it was extremely immature of him to throw all his frustrations on me when he knew that I was only doing what was best for Olivia. I can see where he's coming from. I mean, this whole thing was so unexpected. If he had accused my parents of doing something like this, even I would be angry, but I don't know what to do. I'm glad that he finally understood why I had to do the things the way I did, but he didn't speak to me for almost a month and wasn't even ready to hear an explanation. I still love him very much, but I think I need to take a step back. He needs to come to terms with what his parents have done, and I need to help him through that. I don't think I'm going to move back in just yet. I'm still going to give him space and be there for him. Hello, it's been ages, more than 6 months. Jude and I are okay. We moved back in with him 2 months ago. Both Olivia and I had long discussions with him about everything, and he has apologized multiple times for the way that he reacted. I can tell that he is genuinely sorry. Olivia and him are closer than ever. He has proved that he is a good father figure to her multiple times, and I'm happy to see that they're getting along. He apologized for not believing her, but I think she too knows that he was just in shock. Everything still feels unreal. Jude's parents are in custody, but I don't think that we're ever going to see them again. Jude was so furious about what his parents did that he promised to cut all contact with them, especially because they threatened Olivia. For now, we're just taking things one day at a time. We don't know what the future holds, but we're all together and trying to get past this hurdle in our lives. I'm just glad that everyone is safe. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.